To start setting up a game of Blood Bowl, each player takes their own score marker and places it in the 0 square on their respective tracks on the game board. Also, each coach gets their own turn marker, which they place in their dugout on the first half square. Finally, each coach takes their own reroll markers and places the bot number of rerolls on the reroll track with the image side up. Now, as Blood Bowl is an outdoor sport, the weather might also be of influence to the game. So we have to determine the weather, which can be found on the Blood Bowl reference sheet. You roll 2d6, in this case 6, and look up the result in the weather table, which in this case would be nice, perfect Blood Bowl weather. Though it is possible to end up with sweltering heat, in which players might collapse, or even in a blizzard, which will make moving and passing very difficult. Now, before we can actually start putting players on the pitch, we still need to determine two things. First of all, we need to know what each coach fame modifier will be for this match. Fame is a modifier which is used to influence certain results on the kickoff table, and having a higher fame than your opponent will give you a slight advantage on the table. In order to determine the fame modifier, each coach needs to know how many fans they will have attending this match to support their team. In order to do that, each coach rolls 2d6, in this case 2. Each coach then adds their bought fan factor to the result. Say for instance I would have bought a fan factor of 4, that would give me a total of 6. This result is multiplied by 1,000, say in this case 6,000. You then compare your total number of fans to your opponent. If your total is equal or less than the opponent's number of fans, then your fame score is simply 0. If you have more fans than your opponent, then your fame score would be +1. And if you brought more than twice or twice as many viewers to this match as your opponent, well, then you would get a fame modifier of +2. The second thing we need to know is which team will take the first kickoff. In order to do that, the game is provided with this coin marked with an orc symbol and an eagle symbol on the back. Say for instance I would call out orcs. In this case I would have lost the toss. This will give my opponent the choice whether he or I will take the first kickoff. Say my opponent says that I have to take the first kickoff. In that case I have to set up my players first. After that the receiving coach sets up their players, and then the receiving player takes the first turn in the first half. This is reversed in the second half, so my opponent would have to take the kickoff in the second half. He would have to set up his players first. After that I would set up my players and I would take the first turn of the second half. Now that we have determined the kicking team, we can actually start fielding players. I have to set up first as a kicking team, but there are a couple of rules I have to abide by. The first of all is I can't put any players on the opposition side of the game board, so I have to field them on my own side. This is the center line, I field my players on this side. The second rule is I always have to use 11 players. If I have more than 11 players, the excess players are placed in the reserve box on my dugout, so I can use them as substitutes later on. The third rule is I can't place any more than 2 players in each wide zone. And like I said, the wide zones are marked by these dotted lines. And over here on this side. So on this side and this one I can only field 2 players max. Also, the last rule on the line of scrimmage, which was the front row between each wide zone, this row over here, you have to field at least 3 players. So at least 3 players are placed on the front row. Well, due to the magic of editing, my team is now set up for the match. Then the receiving coach does the same. And we can finally start off the match by taking the kickoff.